Hello everyone, and welcome back to True Haunting Log. Here, we document real ghost incidents, unexplained encounters, and the terrifying reality of the paranormal from around the world. In this video, we have 5 allegedly true scary stories sent in by subscribers involving skinwalkers, mimics, and unexplainable creatures. These stories focus on the unsettling phenomenon of seeing something or someone that looks familiar, only to realize it is actually something else entirely. As always, if you have a story you would like to share, you can send it to truehauntinglog@gmail.com. Now, get comfortable and let's get into the stories. Story 1: Skinwalker on the Dirt Road by Haley Cheyenne 10. I live in a small town in Florida where there isn't much to do other than riding around on dirt roads late at night. It was around my junior year of high school. My old friend A and I were riding dirt roads one night, just killing time. We were out late, maybe 1 or 2 a.m., because, like I said, there's not much else to do around here. We were drifting down a back road, the kind where the trees hang low over the path. We were coming around a corner, and in my headlights, I saw someone standing in the ditch. Without thinking, I immediately put on the brakes and stopped my car, thinking someone needed help. The person began to walk out into the middle of the road. My friend and I just stared at them, completely perplexed. Why was someone out here so late, just wandering around on some random back roads in the middle of nowhere? Then suddenly, something happened that made the two of us breathe in sharply together. As it stepped into the light, we saw that this person was at least 7 feet tall. And they were no person, because people don't have legs that look like a goat. And the way its legs, which were shaped exactly like a goat's, had no fur on them. It was just pale, grayish-white skin. It looked disgusting, like raw meat. The creature looked like a malnourished abomination. With the way its bones protruded through the skin, it appeared as if it hadn't eaten in ages. It was nearing the edge of the road before it stopped to look directly at us through the windshield. And in that moment, we made eye contact with it. It had the yellowest eyes I have ever seen. They didn't look like animal eyes, they looked hateful. We stared it down as it walked into the woods, and when it finally disappeared out of view, I regained my composure. I floored the gas pedal, and we raced home without saying a word. To this very day, I couldn't tell you what the face looked like. The most I remember are those menacing yellow eyes. It wasn't until last year around Halloween that I started watching videos on YouTube about cryptids, and I stumbled upon videos that gave me an idea of what I saw that night. I also have a family member who has Navajo heritage. When we went to visit them, I managed to get her to ask her older family members if what I saw was a skinwalker. Before she even finished telling my story, the man she was talking to interrupted her. He asked if the eyes were yellow, and I remember very well that they were. Story 2: Haunting of the Skinwalker by Carol Roan. I'll be perfectly honest, this was probably one of the weirdest things to ever happen to me. First of all, let me mention that we got the inspiration to go to this place because my brother said it was the stalking grounds for a skinwalker. He said that he encountered one here once and had even fired at it, though he claims bullets didn't do anything to it. Now, I live in a decent-sized town in Ohio. About 20 or 25 minutes away from our house is a stretch of road that's surrounded by deep woods. There are a few farms around there, but it's really just used for public hunting, as it floods horribly sometimes, and the city closes those roads with large metal gates. Alongside this road is a small cemetery called Henline Cemetery. It's a tiny family plot with the last grave being from the 1850s. The city still maintains it, but all of the old headstones are gone now, so they put in one large headstone with all the names listed. It was down the path a little ways from this cemetery that my brother first encountered that creature. Anyway, my girlfriend and I were out there hanging around with our friend Jeremy. We had decided to check out the cemetery and walk around for a little bit, seeing if we could creep ourselves out. Michaela, my girlfriend, is a big paranormal fanatic. She loves paranormal stories and wanted to see this thing my brother saw. But I'm not going to lie, I wanted to see it too, and so did Jeremy. We get to the tiny cemetery, pull off, and start to walk around. I've got anxiety, and it tends to show up at annoying and often random times. At that moment, I felt like I was being watched. I tried to swallow it down again. I knew I had anxiety problems, and maybe I was just a bit excited at the time. Now, the path the hunters use here is pretty narrow, so we had to go in a single file line with me in front, Jeremy in the middle, and Michaela in the back. The walk was pretty uneventful. All we saw was really fresh coyote poop. No big deal. As for coyotes, they usually don't bother you. But it was getting dark, and the path itself was full of holes, roots, and downed limbs, so we decided to just turn around and go get some supper. After eating, Jeremy decided he wanted to go back to Henline. The pull-off is never closed because the region is for public hunting, so we pull in, and Jeremy gets out. Michaela and I stayed put in the car. The feeling of that place had completely changed from during the day. It was paralyzing, nauseating even. I could barely breathe. It was just a feeling of pure evil. Suddenly, we saw Jeremy racing back to the car. He jumped inside in a total panic and locked the door. We asked him what was wrong, and he said he felt something physically pull him into the cemetery. He said he fought himself away from its grasp and ran back to the car. He didn't have to say much more than that. I was pulling out and speeding out of there as fast as I could. We're going back eventually, but not at night. Never at night. And we're definitely going to bring some sort of protection with us. I still want to see this thing, but I wonder if it was the creature my brother saw that attacked Jeremy. And I wonder if it grows stronger in the dark. Story 3. Possible Skinwalker from Nessa. I grew up in a house that was tucked deep into the woods. We even had our own street name for our driveway because it was so long. It was fairly secluded. Well, as kids, we grew up in the woods beyond our house because our favorite thing to do was play in the mud and dig caves. We would make our own clubhouses and climb trees from sun up to sun down. It was me, my 3 brothers, and my older sister. We were hardly ever separated from each other. But on that day, my stepbrother Ryan decided he wanted to go home early to play Super Nintendo. We didn't think anything of it really. We had just gotten the game system, and we fought over it constantly, so he took the opportunity to get it for himself. We told him to just be careful, and he walked off. The sun was setting at the time. About 15 minutes later, we hear a voice in the distance. It was faint at first, and it was coming from the opposite end of the woods that my brother left from. It suddenly became clear that it was his voice. But he was shrieking for help. And as the voice moved closer, we could make out words. "Help me! It's me, Ryan!" We all looked at each other in disbelief. Something told us that this was not, in fact, Ryan. It must have been our immediate gut instinct. My elder brother told us to run now. We ran as fast as we could back to the house to get help. As soon as we burst into the house, we saw our brother Ryan sitting on the floor playing Super Nintendo, just like he said he would. There was no possible way for him to beat us back to the house before we could get there while yelling from the opposite direction into the woods. We were terrified and avoided going in the woods after that. Story 4. That wasn't Isabella, from XX, Dean XX. It was June 2019. I and my best friends Isabella and Elizabeth were very close and still are today. The story I'm about to tell you was one of the most confusing yet scary experiences of my life. It was June, and school had just let out for the summer. All three of us girls were hanging out in Bella's room talking about what we'd do for the summer. Bella and Liz lived in a more rural and secluded area, so their house was the only house for a while. Liz and Bella's parents were out of town at the time, and so their older sister, who we will call Hannah, was watching over them. Hannah was out with her boyfriend, though, and wouldn't be back until late. We had a hard time trying to come up with ideas to keep ourselves entertained, so we decided to take a break, and we went downstairs to the living room to just watch TV. Bella was sitting on the couch watching The Vampire Diaries, while I and Liz were making something to eat for lunch. Around a crazy 4 hours later, after we had gotten bored of binging episode after episode, we went to the kitchen to clean up our mess. I told my friends I was a little tired, so I was going upstairs for a nap. They said okay, so I got a glass of water and headed upstairs to Bella's room to sleep. I fell asleep almost instantly. It was 9:40 p.m. when I woke up to a slight knock. Isabella's house was 3 stories, with her bedroom being a loft-type room that made up the entire 3rd story. The knock that I heard woke me up from my nap, and I jumped up a little because the knock had frightened me. I then thought it was probably one of my friends, so I shrugged it off and got up off the futon to get a drink of my water. Once that was done, I went to the bathroom on the 2nd level. I slowly opened the bathroom door, still rubbing my eyes. I looked for the light switch and flipped it on so I could see. Then, I used the restroom. After I got done, I walked over to the sink to wash my hands. But when I looked in the mirror, I saw a dark shape of what looked to be Bella. I was a bit creeped out because she was just standing there in the dark hallway facing toward her sister Liz's room, not moving or speaking at all. I turned off the faucet, then I turned around to face my presumed friend. I began walking toward her. As I walked, I was still creeped out, but the only thing I could think was maybe she had fallen asleep downstairs and now was sleepwalking. I said to her in a soft and low voice, "Bella?" She turned her head toward me very awkwardly fast, and I immediately stopped walking. Now I was a little more than just creeped out. Then when I saw her face, I didn't see the face of my best friend. At least not the correct version of it. The face on this person had gaunt cheekbones with pale skin. The skin wasn't totally white, but extremely ghastly pale. The eyes were glowing yellow, and the face overall was just bony and taut. Its hair was all tangled and untidy and way darker than Bella's hair. It started to do this evil-looking smile at me. When I saw the teeth of it, they were disgustingly yellow and oddly sharp. Same for the nails on its hands. They weren't too long, but they were still yellow and pointed. I didn't know what this thing was supposed to be. This thing that was supposed to look like my best friend. Suddenly, it sort of skittered into Liz's room. I took the chance to sprint downstairs, yelling for the real versions of my friends. I run down into the living room, seeing the 2 sisters hop off the couch and run across the living room to me, wondering what in the world was wrong. I was so shaken up from what had happened that I couldn't speak. Liz rushed to the kitchen and got me some soda to calm me down. Bella comes hurrying back shortly after. I began to explain what I saw upstairs, but they didn't believe me. They were trying to explain away why I would have seen something like that, saying it could have been my medication, but I explained to them that in the 8 years I'd been taking those pills, I've never once had that kind of side effect. Pretty soon, Hannah came flying through the door with her boyfriend. She asked what happened, and when I told her, she didn't seem to believe me either. But then she stood up from where she was kneeling in front of me and told me to hold on. She then took her boyfriend upstairs, and we could hear them walking around upstairs where Liz's room was. Shortly after, they came back down. Hannah came up to me and hugged me, saying it's okay. But she looked pale. She pulled out her phone and said that it was late and time to go to bed. After what just happened, I didn't want to sleep at all. Hannah told us, "You girls can sleep on the couch if you want to, and we can sleep on air mattresses down here." We all agreed with Hannah's suggestion, and so we went and got everything set up. I fell asleep pretty fast. There weren't any more noises or anything like that the rest of the night. The next morning I had Hannah drive me home because I didn't want to stay another night in that house. I've kept this experience to myself, and I haven't been back to their house ever since. I know they still don't believe me, and you might not either, but I know what I saw. I know that what I saw was not Isabella, is less than #2 number, is greater than. Story 5. Unexplained creature in the desert of Arizona from Mikkel, 666. I'm a 21-year-old guy from Denmark. Back in 2017, I was going on a road trip vacation in the United States. We started off in Las Vegas, then drove to LA, then Arizona, followed by New Mexico, Texas, and finally, Louisiana. And I was very into scary stuff. I was especially into cryptids and unexplained creatures, which I was teased for by my sister and her boyfriend. When we were driving through the deserts of Arizona, my dad had to have a smoke, and we needed to stretch our legs. We got out of the car, and my dad began smoking. We looked around trying to pass the time in the empty desert. Out of nowhere, my sister speaks up. "What is that?" She pointed toward the desert where we immediately noticed a lion-sized, totally black cat. And I'm not talking like a normal Black Panther. This creature was so dark and black it seemed to absorb the light around it like a shadow. It was just walking parallel to us. It had a really long and thick tail, and it walked so freaking weird. Like it was a robot, just totally stiff legs. It noticed us watching it and froze for a moment, before turning its head really fast and staring at us. It turned its body without moving its head and started walking in our direction. I said to everybody that we should probably get back in the car and get moving. I wasn't going to stay around for that thing to reach us. My family quickly agreed, so we hurried to get back in the car to take off for the rest of the trip. My sister's boyfriend and my sister didn't tease me about unexplainable creatures anymore. We were really creeped out by this thing. During the ride, I started to Google some things about animals that lived in Arizona, and I couldn't find anything about huge felines that are solid black living anywhere around here. I still think about this a lot to this very day, and I've never found an answer to what it was out there. What could it be, this creature as large as a lion, blacker than black, with an overly long and thick tail walking like a machine? You tell me, is less than #2, number is greater than. If you have a story you would like to share, be sure to send it to truehauntinglog@gmail.com. We read every single submission. If you enjoyed these stories, please leave a like and a comment down below. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share this video with a friend and subscribe for more true horror. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.